Hi, I'm Chuck Martin, Editorial Director of AI and IoT at Informa Tech, and with me today is Brandon Branham, CTO, Chief Technology Officer and Assistant City Manager at Peachtree Corners. Welcome.
Thank you, Chuck. Thanks for having me today.
So a lot of people don't know what's going on down there. Can you give us a sort of a rundown of Curiosity Lab? We're all curious.
Yeah, no pun intended there for sure. So Curiosity Lab was created by the city of Peachtree Corners, really as an economic development initiative. We're sitting in this gem of an area just 20 minutes north of downtown Atlanta, where the first technology park in the state of Georgia was actually developed back in the late 60s, early 70s. Really rich history and innovation. The Hayes modem, the modem was invented right here in Peachtree Corners. Scientific Atlanta, which is now rolled into Cisco, was founded right here in Peachtree Corners, about a couple buildings down from where I'm sitting. So as you know, fast forward a few decades, city of Peachtree Corners incorporated in 2012. So we are a new city, just celebrated our 10th birthday on July 1st. So once we got our operational acumen under us from standing up a city and getting operations, we shifted our focus to economic development. What could we do to drive business growth, create an environment that companies wanted to be in, to grow, to expand and innovate? And so we leaned on that history of innovation and looked out in the market to see, what was missing for companies to be able to take advantage of as they go and deploy, test, demonstrate, develop emerging technologies in IoT and smart cities and smart mobility. And we saw that the use of public infrastructure, there was a missing gap. Lots of great closed facilities like M-City, phenomenal closed testing facility, but there wasn't that in-between stage, what we like to call the walk of crawl, walk, run, where a company could figure it out in a closed lab, but maybe they weren't quite ready for New York or Atlanta, so they needed that in-between step. So we created Curiosity Lab, reconfigured a 3-mile section of roadway in an the existing technology office park, where we've got 10,000 employees who live or work and another 3,000 who live, put in fiber optic system, partnered with T-Mobile from a 5G perspective. So we're a 5G live site, all 3 bands, and then stepped back and opened it up to the world to say, come and play.
So what's in it for Peachtree Corners?
Yeah, so I know. So because we actually offer the infrastructure free of charge. So a company wants to come and use it to test a new product, no cost there. Where we get is through the activity. So companies here testing for a day, they're probably going to get hungry. They're going to eat in our restaurants. That's sales tax back to the city. Here for a few days, they're staying in our hotels. That's lodging tax back to the city. And then ultimately, right, hopefully we've created this environment that companies want to be a part of, right? You think of Research Triangle, Silicon Valley, all of this collaboration between these companies happening and the talent there, which we've only been open since September of 2019, and we've been successful in doing that. I've had 3 companies relocate major presences to Peachtree Corners, most recently a company called Intuitive Surgical. They make the Da Vinci device, a robotic-assisted surgery device, based out in Sunnyvale, California, opening their East Coast headquarters here in Peachtree Corners, 1,500 jobs, $600 million medical campus.
So the economic development did work.
It worked, yeah, beyond our imagination, actually.
Whose idea was this? Was it a group of people? Was it city planners? Was it like, where did this come from?
Actually started out of one of our council members who just was fascinated with the autonomous vehicle, spectrum, roll back 5 years, where was it going? And he was like, you guys got to figure out where this is. And so he sent my city manager, Brian Johnson, and I on a mission to uncover this. And that's how we stumbled upon this, area of kind of need in the market. And so we were like, hey, we came back, we presented our findings, and they were like, okay, you don't know everything, but here's your blank check, go figure it out. So it was a combination of those and some of our resources with our consultants.
So you've got basically a kind of an open closed system where you've got sensors on roads so that you can have fully autonomous vehicles, the Beep vehicle, which we just did a video with Joe Moyon, which are really self-driving. I mean, like without people, kind of self-driving. Can you talk about that approach? Because it's quite unique. I mean, there's some stuff out of the US that's going on, but it's not common in the US.
Yeah, no, we're starting to see a little more of it starting to really burgeon with the cruises and the Waymos and Zooks, and then but then we've got this industry where we think of public transportation and using that last mile connectivity, and what not better than a purpose autonomous shuttle to do that. But they've got to go through their testing just like everything else. So we actually have 3 of them operating in the roadway now, fully driverless. Obviously with the steward on board because of federal regulation, not because of us. We would say get them out of there. But they've been here going on about 9 months. What's been unique about this project is we've also started layering the infrastructure component behind it. So connected vehicle applications, tying in the autonomous vehicles to our infrastructure, or we've actually did the world's first preemption of a traffic signal over the 5G network using a UU device to hold the light green for the autonomous shuttle as it approached the signal, which, when you're only going 13, 14 miles an hour, we save 3 minutes off the route by doing that. So, showing that advancement between, what the need of autonomous and using new emerging infrastructure technology.
So how does this scale outside of the Atlanta area? Does it?
Yeah, we've got several different of our partners who are kind of using, this to gather their information, test, validate their technology to be able to go out and then, repurpose it, scale it out to 100 or so. We'll use Bosch as a good example. We have their video as a sensor product. So it's doing all the machine learning on the physical edge of the camera device. So, object classification, pedestrian recognition. So we tested that at our intersection here, and now we're deploying 85 of those in our downtown corridor based on the learnings that we got from here. So they're able to take, modify it, learn from it, and then go out and scale that product.
So the Bosches of the world must love you guys.
Yes, because we're also a showcase site for them, right? Because now you can bring a customer to say, here it is actually working in the real world.
Yeah. Can you talk a bit about the technology? Because again, what you're doing is really quite unique because it's autonomous vehicles, for example. It sounds like that was the real driver of this whole thing, at least at the beginning. But ultimately, everything has to be connected to everything else. Can you talk about some of the where you started, where cars connecting to what, and then what else connecting to what else?
Yeah. The idea started out of autonomous vehicles, and that continues to develop where the AVs are getting smarter and relying on the technology and the sensors that are on the vehicle itself, but adding that additional layer, of information to enhance your area. So we started with the fiber. We started with devices running on 5G. So we've got cameras running camera analytics. We've got fixed LiDAR on the intersection. So using LiDAR instead of camera, which gives you a good 3D representation of a 360 degrees around your intersection. So a little broader view of a camera. So then we rolled out our CVDX platform so that we can now take the video feed from the camera that detects a pedestrian in the crosswalk, convert that to a CV to X message, send that out over from our traffic signal to an approaching car. They'll let them know there's a pedestrian in there. Flip that onto the pedestrian with their phone walking through the intersection. We're now able to know that, hey, through the cell phone, that we have pedestrian access going on around our area. We can broadcast that message out from the infrastructure to the vehicle and reverse from the car, any car that's connected with the onboard unit, or maybe using our cellular platform. So we run 2 different types of connected vehicle, one through a traditional roadside unit, or physical hardware and an onboard unit, and then another application completely over the cellular network. So we're able to.
Where do people fit in all of this? You've got humans in there as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
How are they? Do you have actual drivers with driving cars or just autonomous
So
cars?
yeah, so we outfitted the city's fleet with the connected vehicle technology, both some with the physical onboard units and then some with the app, just the cell phone app that you turn on. You let it know you're a car or you let it know you're a pedestrian. You can actually tell the app that you're a pedestrian, so we can tell the difference. And then they're driving through the corridors. The businesses and residents that live in here can participate in all of these activities as well if they want. Obviously, the cell phone app's the easier one to do that with. So then we can tell, trajectory of that vehicle coming into an intersection. We're actually doing some green light optimization, speed advisory for vehicles. So we can tell them, hey, if you maintain this speed at your going rate, you will make it through the green light. If not, go ahead and slow down because you're not going to make it.
No matter what.
So we're able to communicate that over the network and then use the camera and LiDAR to really, for the vulnerable road users, detecting those in real time.
So have you seen any consumer behavior change in the course of all this?
I think people are starting to be a little more open to the idea of autonomy and the future of it, and then how this technology can improve kind of their day-to-day life, right? Because living in a metropolitan area, traffic is a nightmare as it is for everyone. Well, if we can start to use these technologies to improve our corridor transportation, and you save somebody 4 or 5 minutes off their route, it's 4 or 5 minutes they get back in their life. And then, there's still a lot of uncertainty around autonomous vehicles, right? So now we're able to operate this. It's open to the public. They can come ride it any day, 9 to 4. So they get to experience. And the most common comment we get was, wow, that was boring. So kind of the point, right? If it was eventful, that'd be a whole different discussion we'd be having. So, but they start to get familiar with it. We get the kids involved in it at an early age, starting to get them interacting with these vehicles and understanding the technology that goes behind it.
So along the way, with new technology, with all new technology, there's typically a naysayer. Did you have any of those in this?
No, of course not. Yeah, you always have and it's usually from just a lack of information, right? As 4G rolled out and then 5G, and we have the concerns around, is this doing damage to our bodily health? It's usually a lack of information. So we try our best to communicate what's going on with our residents, with those in the park, so they understand not just the intended use of the technology, but how it fits into the overall ecosystem of the community, the benefits of it, what are, the whole learning process through it. We had the world's first Tele-Operated e-scooter program. So
what is that?
Yeah, think Uber, but for an e-scooter, you call it, it comes to you. Company came up with the idea because they got tired of seeing the clutter from e-scooters. So they put some cameras on it, and then built a teleoperation software. So when a rider got off of the scooter, a driver down in Mexico City actually remoted into the scooter and then drove it to a docking station. Kind of weird.
That must have freaked people out initially. See a scooter driving by itself,
with nobody on it. But this was launched during the pandemic, and as we thought, around when all of our awareness around health was up, they could actually take it to the area and desanitize it and then take it out for the next rider. So just applications that come out of the times that we're living in.
So where does it go from here?
Yeah, so we're in the process of a couple next initiatives for this. One is expanding the autonomous vehicle network. So inside of Curiosity Lab, we've got 2 full service conference hotels that are about 95% occupied during the week. And in another 1.5 miles, almost 2 miles up the road, we have what we call our downtown. So we built a mixed use development for entertainment purposes. So we're going to connect that with the autonomous vehicles to really start driving the ridership. Now that we've got comfortable with the operational side of it, let's bring the riders into it. And then as we start to think of around sustainability, last mile connectivity, transit, and the electrification of fleets, we were awarded funding to build a multimodal transportation hub. So it's 2.6 acre lot that will do testing around, battery sharing, sustainable methods for energy generation for microgrids, but also creating a community gathering spot for the tech park community. So we'll have, solar powered canopy coverings with outdoor Wi-Fi and lunch that they can just come and hang out and then jump on an e-bike and ride it back to the office.
And are you basically using smart homes and smart buildings as part of this as well?
Yeah, so any new development that comes into the city, we actually require the use of smart home technologies to be integrated into these developments. We won't require LEED, but we'll be able to get essentially to that designation through the use of the technology inside, especially if you start to think about the multi-family components when you've got a lot of apartments. Using this technology to efficiently run these buildings. And we were fortunate, one of the companies that actually relocated here was ASHRAE, which is the American Standard Heating, Refrigeration, Air Engineers. So they set the policies for all indoor air and control. They opened up their offices, partly because of the relationships we were forming with the private companies. And they actually took a 1971 building and made it net zero.
So do you view this as the smart city of the future, at least the model for it?
Yeah, we're terming it now the connected community, right? Because it's more than just technology. It's about connecting our residents, our businesses, our entire community through the use of technology and how we implement it to better the lives of our businesses and residents. But what we're doing here, is very emerging, right at the forefront of it. So it really is laying the groundwork for the future of smart and connected cities.
So a year from now, we're having this conversation. What will we be talking about?
Oh, yeah. I got some fun ones that I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about yet.
Oh, sure.
So we've got some interesting in the last mile robotic delivery systems that both, on ground, above ground, and underground. So you'll have to circle back here in maybe 6-7 months and I can give some more on that one. But really the future of connectivity, right? The role 5G's been launched now for a year. Now we're starting to see the devices really take advantage of it and what's going to be the impact around the IoT spectrum, right? Especially as we think about manufacturing and connectivity for all these vehicles that are coming online and just the latency for C-V2X applications over the 5G network. And then, we're seeing a lot in the construction innovation space. We have a startup with us, a company called Sky Mule, who has found a way to use a drone application to tie rebar. So as we think of the labor shortages we're all facing, we're starting to see that innovation fill those gaps. But that all requires connectivity. So it all really comes back down to that overarching piece that brings all this together.
Well, I look forward to that next conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.